Hey guys, it's Matt. The Crips, the Creeps, it's actually appropriate, the Crypt Keeper. The Creeps even hijack death. Now, this isn't going to be a presentation like a lot of YouTube channels cover tricks at the moment of death or go into the light, not go into the light. That is important to talk about from time to time. I'll talk about it some other time. I'll give you my personal belief set on that. For now, about that important topic, I'm only going to say, the be careful what you wish for phrase carried through time comes to the forefront, meaning if you expect tricks at death, maybe you will manifest that upon yourself. We'll cover that some other time. This is more of a fun video, but it's also to point out that they really do try to extend the attachment of this world right to and through death. Constant Jacob Marley chains, constant attachment. I'm just going to show you some examples. We'll start off with a fun one here. For those that are driving or just listening, I'll describe what we're looking at going forward. This is not what this video is about. We're going to start here. And Otis, look, Otis, I'm not trying to disturb the dead, my man. Your grave site is public, so you're kind of in the public domain. Your family decided to put this strange saying on you. I'm sorry, Otis. Look, let's just, I don't want to have him roll over. For those driving, this is an image of a flat grave placard, I guess it's called. It's not a big, huge stone or an obelisk. The person's name is Otis. It showed when he lived, when he died, when he was born. It has piano keys at the top, at the bottom. Somebody spent extra for that. It says at the bottom, though, this is why we're going to start here. Otis played the deepest blues we ever heard. He'll play forever in our hearts. People are like, well, what's the problem? They've written these letters together on a grave placard, H-E-L-L, and it's on the same line as the word forever. Forever, hell, the word hell is written on the same line as forever, only separated by the word play. I know it's a contraction. He will play forever in our hearts. But how does this happen? How does this happen? They paid extra for the piano keys at the top and bottom. Didn't the mortuary director, the guy that digs the graves, the Grandma Turner who paid for the funeral, the funeral director, somebody say, well, wait a second here. It might not be the best idea to write the word hell on somebody's grave placard, but there's an apostrophe. But what if the apostrophe gets rubbed out over the years? You ever in the Northeast, you can go to these grave sites and it's just a stone. You can't even read it anymore. It's been weathered. I mean, what if it gets robins pecking at seeds that happen to fall on the word H-E-L-L is what they've written here, and they peck out the apostrophe. Then you've got poor Otis with hell associated with the word forever. Is that going to invite in the Cenobites? I mean, look, Otis, we declare, the people watching this right now, that even if the robins peck, and they rub out the apostrophe in your contraction, there's no threat. This can't in any way bind you to hell or anything like that. All the people watching declare that and give your best wishes to Otis and who it will. But you think, what were the family members thinking? How'd this slip by everybody? Well, we paid extra. Don, I'm Grandma Turner. I'm paying for this thing. We paid extra for the piano keys. H-E space W-I-L-L. He will play. That's, if we remove the apostrophe, which we pay for as a letter, that's only one extra letter. It's an extra $10. Well, we already paid extra for the piano keys. Are you paying, Ray? Are you going to pay the extra $10? Anyway, it's just, how does this happen? Okay, Otis, you're good. We've identified the mistake, our group here, and we've corrected it. Let's move on. Okay, this is what this video is about. I believe the primary purpose we are here in this existence is hidden by the system, but once you realize what it is, it's very simple. It's to identify with your true nature, or discover your true immortal spiritual nature. That this is a train stop, that the body or the avatar is something temporary. This earth existence is something temporary. It's to be used to benefit the spiritual whole, etc. All of these things, all of society hides from us. All of authority hides from us. With, there's maybe one exception out of thousands. All of schooling, K through 12, college hides from us. But then the sons of bitches, they continue this, I don't know what to call it, word magic. It's like continuing to polish the Jacob Marley chains through somebody's death. They use the same type of word magic. And people, Matt, people do this on their own. They've been brainwashed to do this. I don't know if this is coming out right, but guys, look what's on somebody's gravestone. All that they did in life. It's just a tie. The ties that bind. It's just a tie back to, Matt, you're not exactly suggesting that their spirit is struggling to break free of this plane simply because what somebody decided to carve into a gravestone. No, not on its own, but it's all cumulative. The Jacob Marley chains, the attachment one builds up to this life, looking to this life for its awards and applause and Nobel Prizes. We'll look at obituaries soon. The first thing it'll say in the obituary, they're all different, but many will say immediately what the person did. They were a farmer or an attorney, or they worked here, or they were a brother, a husband. All things that relate or tie the person, and they're not even here, they're dead. That it's like trying to tie them back to this existence. Look, I don't know if this is coming out right, but the old guard's like, yeah, this is, you can see the game that they're playing here. We'll look at obituaries in a little bit. So I guess the best way to say what would be on my, I'm never going to have a gravestone, or burn me, to have a body in the ground. It's talk about environmentally unfriendly. Place a giant lead casket into a ground. Just put me in the ground with just wrapped like Merrin in Braveheart. So at least get the worm food. I could become worm food and help the environment that way. Don't put no giant lead kryptonite coffin in the ground or anything like that. But if I had a stone, what would it say? It wouldn't say anything about what the straw man, all name caps, last name caps here did or didn't do. It would be like, here lies the body or the avatar of a spiritual being that tried to use Earth the best that he could to better himself. And there wouldn't be no ties that bind on my gravestone. Here it says the person's in Clemson Hall of Fame. They had the scoring title, the Beaver County Hall of Fame, SNF basketball tournament, MVP, all the things, all the applause and accolades, yay, and awards that the person did, or all it is identifying with this existence. And it's funny that one of the main goals, or potentially the goal of existence itself, is to decouple from it, to not identify with it any longer, to not see this. You're not just the ego in the body. That's on the tiny portion. So it's just well, Matt, the family decides what goes. Okay, but the person can declare their wishes in a will. And I'm not saying what's on their damn stone is going to damn them, or anything like that, but it's all cumulative. It all seems to go along with that soul token concept. To the no consequences people, like, why do they work so hard, even through death, in what the system wants you to put on your gravestone? They're working hard to get people to believe they have to do a certain thing or operate in a certain way. Why? And they don't even leave you alone in death, these sick sons of bitches. And as I'm doing some of these, we'll look at obituary next. I'm thinking, look, I declare respect for the dead. I'll just declare it. But I was thinking, do I need to redact the name? I mean, the person's family put it in the paper. And the paper's picked up digitally on systems around the world. So they're not, look, I don't think it's any problem if somebody talk about public domain, somebody put it in the paper. So I'm not redacting no names. So I'm not going to say the name here. And his name, we'll just call him Ted. And I respect you, Ted. This is, you're actually contributing to a greater awareness. So thank you for participating as an example. But you weren't asked. We didn't really ask you, or you didn't give your permission. But I'm taking it because your family put this in the paper. Ted, it says right off the bat, an attorney for blah 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 city council, died Monday. And then, okay, what did he do? We'll get to the cocktail party. First thing out of somebody's mouth at a cocktail party, what do you do? Always means the employment. That's all conditioning as well. We'll talk about that in a moment. 19, I can barely read it here. It's so small even for me, guys. But a Valparaiso University graduate. I'm not going to read through this, okay? I'm not. But it's all, there's going to be, in all these obituaries, even listing loving husband, or it's all what you did in life. It's all polishing the Jacob Marley chains. That why not? Where's the theme of decoupling from this reality? or at least, hey, I did my thing on earth, now I want no part of it. That type of language is never used, never presented, meaning spiritual language is never presented in an obituary, in a gravestone. Let the spiritual aspect take over from the earthly, pedestrian, bullshit results, or whatever they were able to achieve, whatever money they were able to raise, or whatever park they were able to build. It's all tying back. When does the spiritual side ever take over? If it doesn't take over in the language surrounding death, the obituary, the gravestone, then it never will. It's all by design. Let's talk about this, take a little bit of a break before picking up on the main topic. In the Northeast, I'm outside of Philadelphia, these humongous obelisk gravestones are everywhere. Now, I'm not going to research this. I don't know exactly why somebody would choose this. Put in the comments if you know anything about this. Is this common in Boise, Idaho, or is it common in Sacramento? Is it common in Arizona? It's really common, I would say, between Boston and Washington, D.C., this Northeast, and maybe it's all over the place. And is it just related to Catholicism? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The point is simple. It relates back to what I've talked about many times over the years about doing the opposite. Is this the cool thing to do now? I have no idea, but at some point, there are thousands of these things in and around the Philadelphia area, probably all the way up through Boston and maybe all over the country. But if this is the in thing to do, or was the in thing to do, the system wants me to do this, then to do the opposite. To make, if you're going to put a body in the ground, to make the placard or the gravestone as small as possible, as unassuming as possible, if that's the right word. How about as unobnoxious as possible? Yeah, I know somebody screaming at me from their tub to tell me about the phallus of Osiris. Yeah, this isn't my first rodeo. I know. I should have mentioned that about gold member. I love gold. When I talked about the gold member a few back, of course but we were talking about it predicting the run up in gold. And by the way, a different Rob, not Rob associated with Free Voice, a different Rob who calls himself a Fibonacci trader, came back to me and said and showed me where I tried to say the box office number is probably one of the closing prices for gold. And he actually showed me that was a key support number in, was it 2002, where after gold went on its huge run up. Go, 3 or 4 videos back from me, the gold member video, if you haven't seen it. The ridiculous movie predicted the run up in gold. But we were talking about that because of Osiris and of course it relates to that. Of course the Washington Monument, and people don't think anything of it. I mean, obviously the people putting these gravestones up for old Uncle Joe or whatever, they're not on purpose trying to be sinister. They just go along. That's the problem. Everybody just goes along with the system's trends. And you have to notice the system's trends and what the system wants you to do and how it wants you to behave and the choices it wants you to make are almost always sinister, almost always in some way are out to, that damage the spirit or soul in some way. This is why, kind of still talk about the soul token. It wants a piece of you. I mean, what is the point of this? Is there any ramification for the dead if the family puts a gigantic phallus of Osiris over top the body? If they've done enough work, this is very strong, if they've done enough work in life, the way we're doing the work, no. You can, with the work we've done, your family could erect a phallus of Osiris the size of the Seattle Space Needle over top your rotting body. It wouldn't mean crap for you and me. I really believe that. But maybe, I don't know, the system, it will work every angle. Maybe somebody on the edge, I don't know. You put the word hell on the damn placard, you erect a giant gold member on top of the body. I don't know if it's close. Maybe, is the system... maybe the system says, look, the person has to make the ties that bind themselves. They have to develop and make the links of the Jacob Marley chain during their lifetime and the choices and the decisions they make. This doesn't sit well with the no consequences spiritual people, but I'm going to continue to present both sides. Maybe this is just one more, link in the chain that helps the system I don't know. But what's the point of this? I wonder, how does a family even decide to do this? I mean, forget your belief set or your religions. I mean, doesn't anybody in the family say, look, we don't need to be this? I don't know. It's obnoxious. I'm at a loss for words. You know what I mean, guys? Let's just do another example where we'll do the opposite. The system wants me to erect the Space Needle over my body. If I am put in the ground and not burned, then I want a placard the size of a grain of rice. And we know that the system does use this sort of presentation, the presentation of death or gravestones, to make points. It has in the past, with the most famous one in our community being the grave placard of, for you pronounce the German, it's a V, Werner von Braun. Eva Braun. Eva Braun was Hitler's, were they sisters and brother? I don't know. Werner von Braun says 1912 to 77, I think. And then it says Psalms 19-1. Right on. So the guy that supposedly helped NASA with the rocketry and all that, and the tuna fish cans, it says, go see Psalms 19-1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. The firmament. Now look, this again, it's Goldilocks. To people in our community, the firmament is associated with an enclosed place, a dome, the flat. Nobody can go anywhere in a tuna fish can, which I believe, of course, get your ass to Mars. Nobody going to Mars. Nobody going anywhere, of course. So I believe what they believe in that area. I'm not going to talk about shape or anything right now. I've talked about that many times in the past. No need to get into that. But the Goldilocks aspect of, and there's even interpretations of different versions of the Bible where instead of firmament, might use the word sky or heavens. So we would say, if they're showing us right here, the guy that did the fake rockets, he's showing you right on his grave placard. At least he doesn't have the word hell, but he's probably is a cold place for people that participated this heavily in the Walt Disney system. He's showing you that it's a firmament. And yeah, of course, it's a truth drop. No doubt about it, in my opinion. Or it's just simply mocking. It doesn't mean it's exactly what the flat people say it is, it's a mockery, of course. And when I said Goldilocks, how reality's always not too hot, not too cold, it's always Goldilocks. There's always just enough there for people like, quote, my Tony to latch onto, or your cousin would say, Matt, look, here's an interpretation right here. The heavens. Werner von Braun was associated with going into the heavens. And why do you conspiracy people always have to, you see what's not there, and you always flip it. To you conspiracy people, my cousin would say, you always flip it to back up and support your own warped and sick viewpoint. That's the way, it's always Goldilocks, the reality. So we clearly latch on to firmament, which means nobody goes anywhere in Elon Musk's sports cars, and they would latch on to heavens or sky. And, both dig in and both can never convince the other. What else is new? Okay, back to the word magic games they play. So people damn themselves in the terminology they use associated with themselves, creating their own ties that bind and Jacob Marley chains. We're at a cocktail party. I probably will never be at another one for the rest of my life. But you're at a cocktail party, just go with it. And what's the first word out of here comes a young woman. In this case, it would be me talking to a young woman. If it was something else, there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. But what do you do? Me? What do I do? Now, what's she expecting? Obviously, she's expecting, I'm a accountant for the firm Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. That's what she's expecting. But then I'd really throw this woman for a loop. I'd start giving answers and responses related to the spiritual. Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm an immortal spiritual being who came into this earth plane of existence kind of lost, and I'm still trying to find myself. I'm still trying to understand how this system that's all around us here is constantly trying to get me to screw myself spiritually and damn myself. And I came in here like Tommy. You've heard of The Who, right, miss? The deaf, dumb, and blind kid. I ain't trying to play no pinball. I'm trying to find myself spiritually. I'm trying to break the ties that bind my soul or spirit to this place, or potentially the parts that are trying to horcrux me off here, and Cenobites that get up in my business, like George W. Bush. And I would constantly be giving her, again, if it wasn't, in my example, it would be her. If you want to insert another pronoun or something, that's fine, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would be giving her all the spiritual answers. And she'd be like, well, you didn't even mention what you do for a living. This is what I do, miss, what I do for a living, to become truly alive. No, dummy, do I have to just spell it out? How you make your money, and do you drive BMW? And she, look, that would have never gotten that far. She would have ran away from me long ago, but you understand the point. And I would say to her as she's running away, Miss, do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Okay, if you're driving, last set of images here, thumbnails, just, placing the coins over the eyes, the old tradition, wherever that came from, for Karen or Charon, or like a Karen that runs around trying to get everybody to wear their mask, or you call me Ray, or you call me Jake, whatever the name. I'm going to call Karen. I don't mean to piss you off. But I don't expect I'm going to need no boatman when I die. So I'm going to call you Karen. But see, even in the ancient traditions, there's always a tie back to the material bullshit world. Matt, you're not saying this is by design. Most of the way the creatures operate, in my opinion, they're not all plotting and planning. It's by design at the darkest part of reality. But the people that plot and plan and present these stories, no, I don't think they're in on it. They just do what the dark reality wants. So I don't know. People might disagree with this example, but this goes along with what we've been talking about. So in the ancient world, I don't know who did this. I don't really care. Put the coins over the eyes. So you're trying to keep materialism or some weird tradition where you pack somebody's riches into the coffin. But let's just stick with this: the coins over the eyes, because Karen or Sharon's going to need the coins, need to be paid. What is Karen or Sharon going to do with coins or quarters or loonies or whatever era, the Roman gold pieces? He can't spend that shit. There ain't no mall on the other side of the River Styx. Is there a River Styx mall that I'm unaware of? What's he going to do with coins? See how this makes no sense? If you go and put a big jar of lube into the hand of the dead, and coins ain't going to do Karen or Sharon no good. So to me, it's just another tie, trying to tie the body back to the material world. Somebody in the ancient world should have said, get them coins off those eyes. We don't want to have any ties or attachments to this material world. For I know we can't see the spirit, we can't see the soul. All we have to work with is the avatar, the body. But through representation and symbolism, let's cut all ties. Remove the dress, remove the gowns, remove the suit. Could dressing the person up even be a tie that binds? I don't know. If you want to really do something for Karen or Sharon, get them a life preserver. Let's look at this one. The Egyptian scales at death, which I saw a really horrible movie recently, The Gods of Egypt. It has 4 or 5 really interesting scenes. It's pretty bad. You'll know within 5 minutes whether it's for you. It has the guy that played in 300 running around as Set, and the guy that I thought was Jamie Lannister, who he's running around as blind Horus, and whatever. There's a part where it's pretty cool done. They march the one young kid's girlfriend. She's in the realm of the dead. They march her off to weigh her against the scales, and all the creepy characters. Anubis leads her up, and all the creepy characters are there at the judges at the scales. Just the same way those creepy characters were presented, looking up on their obelisks, looking down at the Green Lantern, whatever those ancient beings were supposed to be. Just like everything else in this reality, ancient stories, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or whatever was supposedly practiced in ancient Egypt, regarding the weighing of the heart against the feather, the scales, judged by Anubis at death. There's, just like everything else, there's going to be truths, if you can see them, and hijacked falsity, if you can see that. It's never just going to give you the answer. So what would be let me just, for anybody that doesn't know what this is, presented very accurately, by the way, in the horrible movie Gods of Egypt. The scales, in the movie they put an offering or a tribute, like coins or whatever, against the feather. But the tradition, I think, is the heart against the feather. And if you pass the test, then you can go off into the afterlife and live with Osiris. Now, the truth of it is, the Egyptians valued the heart. I believe there's something I read where they left the heart inside the mummy. The only organ they left, I read in one spot, they left the heart. They valued the heart as a source of wisdom, as part of what makes up intelligence. And modern science only focuses on the brain. We know, people just instinctively in this community know how important the heart is. So weighing the heart against the feather, there's your truth. But then it's not just the organ that beats the blood. It's what does the heart represent in terms of truth, or the heart chakra and all that. So that's a great truth in my opinion. But the deception that you're going to need some judges looking down on you in this, were you a good person, were you a bad person, and will we send your broke ass off to live in the afterlife with us? I mean, it's just, no, it's not. You judge. You know who the ultimate judge of us, in my opinion, is ourselves. Okay, I know that's not a Christian theme. I don't want to lose the Christians here. We're in the foxhole together, and we're being attacked on all sides by these creeps. So I don't want to lose you. I'm just telling you what I believe. It shouldn't have any impact on your belief. But these traditions, it's always putting us in a situation of being subservient or asking permission. And I'm kind of conditioning myself to do the opposite. Gotta go back and do another Earth stint again, because once I found out, because all I needed to do was declare that I've done enough here, and I'm not going back. All you had to do was declare it, and nobody ever believed because of the hijack system that's here. Nobody ever believed they had the power to declare it themselves. Well, I do believe I do. I ain't going to ask nobody permission or what I need to do after death. That's just me. I think it's likely that Monty Python in the Holy Grail was making fun of these scales potentially. Didn't they weigh the witch against a duck? Now this is the ultimate, if you want the ultimate example, guys, of circular reasoning, fallacy logic, circular, fallacious reasoning. Is that a word? It's this scene in Monty Python the Holy. How do you know she's a witch? She looks like one. Yeah. Well, what do you do with a witch? Burn her. What else burns? What else burns? Wood. What do you do with a witch? Burn her. Well, what else burns? Wood. Well, she's made of wood. Well, how do you know she's a witch? Because how does it go? Because wood floats, the witch should float. But if they need to use the scale, what else floats? A duck. So therefore, by circular reasoning, if she weighs the same as a duck, she's a witch. And these idiots in the quote audience down here, or the Lord and Master is up on high, the politician, and the population, as it presented in Monty Python, this probably represents the population of the United States, Canada, Germany, France, and the UK. They're down below trying to follow the circular, ridiculous reasoning that the politician presents. And there's so many things, guys, probably in this Monty Python. You could probably break it down as part of a college class. The Lord or Master is up high. What do we do with a witch? These idiots, which represents the population of the United States, they're following along the circular reasoning. What Al Gore, what he tells you about primate change, and what's the other? It's global charming. All that's circular reasoning. Maybe not quite as ridiculous as trying to weigh a grown woman against a duck, but in the same ballpark. If you are a fanboy of Al Gore, you probably accept you could weigh a witch or a woman who's accused of being a witch against a duck. How come we never see this sort of thing on a headstone or a gravestone? Just a headstone. No name. Don't put all first name caps, last name caps. Just say, here lies the remains of an avatar who assisted a spirit on this earthly plane to better understand itself.